Amira Johnson never expected a stolen glance to change her life. Serving at Dubai's elite Grand Oasis Hotel, she catches the eye of Zain Al Fahad, heir to a powerful empire. But their love is forbidden, and his family will stop at nothing to keep them apart. Can love conquer all? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun beat down on Dubai's skyline, its golden rays reflecting off the glass towers that pierced the cloudless blue sky. Inside the Grand Oasis Hotel, Amira Johnson adjusted her black and white uniform and tucked a stray curl back into her tight bun. At 28, she had been working as a waitress in the hotel's 5-star restaurant for 3 years, sending most of her earnings back home to her mother in Chicago. "Table 12 needs more water," barked Marcus, the floor manager, as he rushed past her. Amira grabbed a crystal pitcher and made her way across the marble floor, moving between tables with practiced grace. She kept her eyes down, just as she'd been trained. The wealthy guests at the Grand Oasis preferred their service invisible and efficient. As she approached table 12, she noticed the group of businessmen in expensive suits. They were speaking Arabic, their voices hushed but authoritative. Amira carefully refilled their water glasses, making sure not to interrupt their conversation. "The merger must happen before the end of the quarter," said an older man with steel grey hair and cold eyes. "The Al Fahad name must remain at the top." "Yes, father," replied a younger man, whose back was to Amira. When he turned slightly to reach for his glass, Amira caught a glimpse of his face. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and she felt an unexpected jolt. He was strikingly handsome, with deep brown eyes that seemed somehow different from the others at the table, softer, perhaps, less hardened. He gave her a small nod of thanks. Such a simple gesture, but so rare in this world where she was treated like part of the furniture. Amira broke the eye contact quickly and moved to the next table. She had learned long ago not to linger around the guests, especially men like him, men who lived in a different universe from hers. "Who was that?" she heard the young man ask as she walked away. Later that afternoon, Amira was arranging fresh flowers at the entrance when she heard someone approach. "Excuse me." She turned to find the young man from breakfast standing there alone. Up close, he was even more striking, tall and broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed beard and those same thoughtful eyes. "Yes, sir? How can I help you?" she asked, slipping easily into her professional voice. "I believe I dropped my phone at breakfast. Has anyone turned one in?" Amira shook her head. "I haven't seen one, but I can check with Lost and Found. If you wouldn't mind, it's quite important." "Of course. Your name, sir?" "Zain Al Fahad." Al Fahad. The name was familiar. They were one of the wealthiest families in the Emirates, owners of half the real estate in Dubai, if rumors were to be believed. "I'll check right away, Mr. Al Fahad." "Thank you." He paused, looking for a name tag. "Amira," she supplied. "Amira," he repeated, and something in the way he said her name made her cheeks warm. She hurried to the front desk, aware of his eyes following her. The Lost and Found had no record of a phone, and when she returned to tell him, she found him still waiting patiently. "I'm sorry, Mr. Al Fahad. Nothing has been turned in." He nodded, seeming unsurprised. "Thank you for checking." He hesitated, then asked, "Have you worked here long, Amira?" The question caught her off guard. Guests rarely ask the staff anything. "Personal. 3 years, sir." "You're not from Dubai originally, though?" "No, I'm from the United States, Chicago." "Chicago," he repeated with a small smile. "I studied at Northwestern for a year. Beautiful city." Before she could respond, a voice called from across the lobby, "Zain!" "There you are." A tall, impeccably dressed woman with diamond earrings that caught the light approached them. She cast a dismissive glance at Amira before linking her arm through Zain's. "Your father is waiting in the car. We're going to be late for lunch with the Haddads." Her voice dropped. "Why are you talking to the help?" Zain's expression hardened slightly. "Syra, this is Amira. She was helping me look for my phone." The woman, Syra, barely acknowledged Amira's presence. "Well, did you find it?" "No, but it's fine. I probably left it at the office." Syra tugged at his arm. "Come on. You know how your father gets when he's kept waiting." As they walked away, Zain glanced back and gave Amira an apologetic look. She simply nodded and returned to her duties, pushing the encounter from her mind. Men like Zain al-Fahad didn't exist in her world. The following week, Amira was assigned to the hotel's rooftop restaurant for the evening shift. As the sun set over Dubai, casting an orange glow across the city, she moved between tables, serving drinks to guests who had come to enjoy the spectacular view. Amira. The familiar voice made her turn, and there stood Zain al-Fahad, alone this time, dressed in a casual linen shirt that made him look less like a businessman and more like a man enjoying a quiet evening. "Mr. al-Fahad, how can I help you?" "I was hoping for a table." He gestured to a quiet corner. "That one, if it's available." "Of course, sir." She led him to the table, handed him a menu, and was about to walk away when he spoke again. "Would you recommend anything?" "I haven't been here before." Amira hesitated. "The seafood platter is very popular, and the chef's special kebabs are excellent." "Then that's what I'll have." "Both." He smiled. "And whatever you think is the best non-alcoholic drink." "Right away, sir." Throughout the evening, Amira found herself returning to his table more often than necessary. Each time, Zain would ask her a question about the hotel, about Dubai, about Chicago, simple questions that somehow felt weighted with something more. As the restaurant emptied and the night grew late, he remained nursing his drink and watching the city lights. "Was everything to your satisfaction, Mr. al-Fahad?" Amira asked as she cleared his table. "Perfect. Thank you." He paused. "And, please call me Zain. I couldn't, sir, hotel policy." "Oh, of course." He looked out at the view. "It's beautiful up here, isn't it? Away from everything." "Yes, it is," she agreed, following his gaze. "It's my favorite place in the hotel. Do you ever get a break, to just sit and enjoy it?" Amira laughed softly. "Not really, but sometimes, after my shift, I stay for a few minutes before heading home." Zain checked his watch. "Like now?" She smiled. "My shift ends in 10 minutes, but you don't need to leave on my account. I should go anyway, early meeting tomorrow." He stood and placed a generous tip on the table. "Thank you for the excellent service, Amira." After he left, Amira finished cleaning up and took a rare moment to sit at an empty table, gazing out at the city. She'd only been there for a minute when she heard someone approach. "Do you mind if I join you?" Zain stood there, a tentative smile on his face. "Mr. al-Fahad, I thought you left." "I did. Then I came back." He sat down across from her. "And please, when we're not being observed by hotel management, I'd really like it if you called me Zain." Amira looked around nervously. "I could get in trouble. For sitting during your break, I'd like to see them try to enforce that." His eyes sparkled with mischief. Despite her better judgment, Amira felt herself smiling. There was something about him that felt genuine, unlike most of the wealthy guests she encountered. "So, Amira from Chicago, what brought you to Dubai?" She considered for a moment before answering. "Opportunity, I guess. The pay is better here than back home, and my mom needs help with medical bills." "That's admirable. You came all this way for your family." "What else would I do?" She shrugged. "Family comes first." Zain's expression darkened slightly. "Yes, that's what I've always been told." Over the next hour, they talked, really talked, about their lives, their dreams, their disappointments. Zain told her about the weight of his family's expectations, the arranged marriage they were pushing him toward with Syra, the businesswoman she'd met in the lobby. "I've never talked to anyone like this," he admitted as the night grew late. "It's always business or family obligations, never just a conversation." "Maybe you're talking to the wrong people," Amira suggested. "Or maybe I just found the right one." The intensity in his eyes made her look away, suddenly aware of how inappropriate this was. She stood abruptly. "I should go, it's late, and I have an early shift tomorrow." Zain nodded, understanding in his gaze. "Of course, thank you for sharing your break with me." As she gathered her things, he asked, "Are you working tomorrow evening as well?" "Yes, same shift, same place." "Good," he smiled. "I think I might become a regular." True to his word, Zain returned the next evening and the one after that. Each night followed the same pattern. He would dine alone, and after her shift, they would talk on the rooftop, watching the city below. They were careful, always meeting after hours, always ensuring no one saw them together. It was friendship, Amira told herself. Nothing more. It couldn't be more. But one night, 2 weeks after their first rooftop conversation, everything changed. "I have something for you," Zain said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Zain, you shouldn't... It's not what you think." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm, the Chicago skyline. "To remind you of home." As he fastened it around her wrist, his fingers lingered on her skin. The touch sent a warmth through her that she couldn't ignore. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "but I can't accept it." "Why not?" "You know why." Zain moved closer, their faces inches apart. "Because of who I am, or who you are. Both. The world you live in. It's not mine, Zain. When I'm with you, none of that matters. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can breathe." Before she could respond, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, but when she didn't pull away, it deepened into something more urgent, more real than anything Amira had ever felt. When they finally broke apart, Amira touched her lips, hardly believing what had just happened. "Can't do this," she said, even as her heart raced. "I know," he agreed, "but I want to." What followed were weeks of secret meetings, in quiet corners of the hotel, in a small cafe across town where no one would recognize them, and always, after her shift, on the rooftop under the stars. Their worlds couldn't have been more different, but in those stolen moments, they created a new world that belonged only to them. But reality had a way of intruding. One evening, Amira was serving a private function when she saw them. Zain, his father Khalid Al-Fahad, and Saira, all seated. At the head table, it was clearly a business dinner, with other important-looking couples in attendance. Zain's eyes widened slightly when he saw her, but he quickly composed himself. Throughout the evening, she felt his gaze following her, but they maintained their distance, playing their expected roles. As she served dessert, she overheard Khalid speaking to the table. "We are pleased to announce that the merger between Al-Fahad Industries and Haddad International will be finalized next month." He raised his glass. "And to seal our partnership, we're equally pleased to announce the engagement of my son, Zain, to Saira Haddad." The table erupted in applause. Amira's hands trembled as she set down the dessert plates. When she dared to look at Zain, his face was a mask, revealing nothing, but his eyes were filled with apology and pain. Amira excused herself and rushed to the kitchen, fighting back tears. Of course, this was how it would end. What had she been thinking? That a man like Zain could ever choose someone like her over his family, his duty, his world. After her shift, she didn't go to the rooftop. Instead, she headed straight for the staff exit, pulling her coat tight around her against the unusual chill of the Dubai night. "Amira, wait!" Zain was waiting by the door, his face etched with distress. "Congratulations on your engagement," she said coldly, trying to walk past him. He caught her arm gently. "It's not what you think. I didn't know my father was going to announce. Kid, tonight. Nothing has been decided." "It looked pretty decided to me. Please, just listen. I've been trying to talk to my father, to make him understand that I don't want an arranged marriage. But these things take time in my family." "Time?" Amira laughed bitterly. "You mean time for you to have your fun with the waitress before you settle down with someone suitable?" "That's not fair," Zain said, hurt flashing in his eyes. "What I feel for you is real, more real than anything in my life. But not real enough to stand up to your father tonight to tell everyone that you're not marrying Saira?" "Before," he could answer. A sleek black car pulled up and the driver's window rolled down. "Mr. Al-Fahad, your father is looking for you." Zain closed his eyes briefly, torn between worlds. "Tell him I'll be right there." The car drove off, leaving them alone again. "I have to go," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I know you do," Amira replied. "You always will." She turned and walked away, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Behind her, she heard him call her name, but she didn't look back. Some divides were too wide to cross, some worlds too far apart. What she didn't know, as she disappeared into the night, was that Zain had already made a decision that would shake his family's empire, challenge everything he had been raised to believe, and set in motion a chain of events that would either bring them together or destroy them. Both. Because for the first time in his life, Zain Al-Fahad was ready to fight for what he wanted. And what he wanted was her. 2 weeks had passed since the engagement announcement, and Amira had done everything possible to avoid Zain. She'd switched shifts, requested different sections of the restaurant, and even called in sick twice. Something she'd never done before. The silver bracelet with the Chicago skyline charm remained in a small box at the bottom of her drawer, too painful to wear but impossible to throw away. On a busy Friday afternoon, Amira was serving lunch when Marcus, the floor manager, approached her with a frown. "Amira, you're needed upstairs," he said. "Mrs. Al-Rashid wants to see you." Her stomach dropped. Mrs. Al-Rashid was the hotel owner's wife, someone the staff rarely saw but greatly feared. Did she say why? "No, but you better hurry. She's waiting." In the executive office. Amira quickly removed her apron and checked her appearance in a nearby mirror before taking the service elevator to the top floor. Her mind raced with possibilities. Had someone complained about her service? Had she broken some rule she wasn't aware of? The secretary led her into a lavishly decorated office where an elegantly dressed woman sat behind a large desk. To Amira's shock, Saira Haddad stood by the window, her arms crossed and a smug expression on her face. "You wanted to see me, Mrs. Al-Rashid?" Amira asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, please sit down." The older woman gestured to a chair. "It has come to my attention that you've been engaging in inappropriate relations with a hotel guest." Amira felt the blood drain from her face. "I'm not sure what you mean." Saira stepped forward. "Don't play dumb. We know all about your little rooftop meetings with my fiancé." Mrs. Al-Rashid slid a folder across the desk. Inside were several photos, Zain and Amira talking on the rooftop, sitting close together at a cafe, and worst of all, kissing in what they thought was a secluded corner of the hotel garden. "This is a 5-star establishment," Mrs. Al-Rashid said coldly. "We have strict policies against staff fraternizing with guests, especially married or engaged guests." "He wasn't engaged when we—" Amira stopped herself, realizing she was admitting to the relationship. Saira laughed bitterly. "Oh, he most certainly was. Our families have had this arrangement for years. Zain was just having his little adventure before settling down." Amira looked down at her hands, unable to meet their judgmental gazes. "Normally, this would result in immediate termination," Mrs. Al-Rashid continued. "However, given your otherwise excellent record and at Miss Haddad's suggestion, we're offering you an alternative." Saira opened her designer handbag and pulled out an envelope. $10,000 cash. "Take it and leave Dubai today." Amira stared at the envelope in disbelief. "You're bribing me to disappear?" "Think of it as a severance package," Mrs. Al-Rashid said smoothly. "But if you refuse, not only will you lose your job, but I will personally ensure you never work in any reputable establishment in this city again." Amira thought of her mother back in Chicago, of the medical bills that kept piling up. With $10,000 she could pay off those bills and still have enough to start over somewhere new. "And one more thing," Saira added. "You are to have no contact with Zain. No goodbye, no explanation. You simply vanish." "Why are you doing this?" Amira asked, finally finding her voice. "If you're so confident in your relationship with him, why do you care about me?" Saira's perfect composure cracked for just a moment. "Because the Al-Fahad family doesn't need any scandals right now. This merger is worth billions, and I won't let some American waitress ruin it because she caught feelings." Amira looked from the envelope to the photographs. She had no choice, and they all knew it. "Fine," she said, taking the envelope. "I'll be gone by tonight." Mrs. Al-Rashid nodded with satisfaction. "Your final paycheck will be mailed to you. Please clean out your locker and return your uniform before you leave." Amira stood up, her legs shaking. As she reached the door, Saira called out, "Oh, and Amira, if I ever see you near Zain again, the consequences will be much worse than losing a job." Back in her tiny apartment, Amira packed her few belongings with tears streaming down her face. 3 years in Dubai, reduced to 2 suitcases. She had always known her time here was temporary, but she had never imagined it would end like this. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Zain. "I need to see you, please." She stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the delete button. Part of her wanted to see him one last time, to hear his explanation, to feel his arms around her just once more. But what good would it do? Their worlds were too different. The past 2 weeks had proven that. She deleted the message and turned off her phone. 3 hours later, Amira sat in the airport, waiting for her flight to Chicago. She had used part of the bribe money to buy a one-way ticket home. The rest was safely tucked into her carry-on, destined for her mother's medical care. Attention passengers, Flight 237 to Chicago is now boarding at Gate 12. As Amira gathered her things, a voice cut through the airport noise. "Amira, wait!" She froze. It couldn't be. But it was. Zain was running toward her, dodging other travelers, his usually perfect appearance disheveled, as if he'd been searching for hours. "Zain, what are you doing here?" she asked, panic rising in her chest as she remembered Cyrus' threat. "You weren't answering your phone, you weren't at work, no one would tell me where you were." He was breathing hard. "I had to check every flight to the US today." "You shouldn't be here," she said, glancing around nervously. "Your fiancé made it very clear what would happen if I saw you again." Zain's face darkened. "Syra? What did she do?" "It doesn't matter. It's better this way." Amira tried to move toward the gate, but Zain gently caught her arm. "Better for who? Not for me. And I don't think for you either." His eyes searched hers. "I called off the engagement." Amira's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "After that night, I told my father I couldn't go through with it. He was furious, of course, threatened to cut me off, remove me from the company, everything." Zain ran a hand through his hair. "But for the first time in my life, I didn't care. All I could think about was you. Your final boarding call for Flight 237 to Chicago." Amira glanced anxiously at the gate. "Zain, I have to go. My mother needs me. Then let me come with you." "To Chicago? What about your family, your business?" "I've already told you, none of that matters without you." He took her hands in his. "I love you, Amira. I think I've loved you since that first night on the rooftop." The sincerity in his eyes nearly broke her resolve. "But your family will come around eventually. And if they don't," he shrugged, "I have enough money of my own, we'll be fine." Amira shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "You don't understand. It's not just about the money. Your family, your culture, they're part of who you are. I can't be the reason you lose all that. You're not taking anything from me," Zain insisted. "You're giving me a chance at real happiness, something I never thought I could have." A final call for her flight echoed through the terminal. "I have to make this flight," Amira said, torn between her heart and her head. "My mother is expecting me." Zain nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Then go." "But this isn't goodbye, Amira. I'll be on the next flight to Chicago. Unless—" he hesitated, "unless you tell me you don't want me to come." Amira looked into his eyes, searching for any doubt, any hesitation. She found none. "I want you to come," she whispered. "But only if you're sure." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," with one last, longing look. Amira hurried to the gate, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. As the plane took off, carrying her away from Dubai and back to Chicago, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, their love could overcome the odds stacked against them. What she didn't know was that Zain's declaration of independence had set off a chain reaction within the powerful Al Fahad family. And some secrets, once revealed, could never be buried again. In Chicago, Amira's mother, Denise Johnson, was waiting at the airport, her warm smile a welcome sight after the emotional turmoil of the past days. "Baby girl," Denise embraced her, taught her tightly. Despite the fatigue and pain that came with her chronic illness, Denise's spirit remained unbroken. "You're home earlier than you said. Is everything okay?" "It's a long story, Mom," Amira said, helping her mother to the taxi stand. "How are you feeling?" "Better now that you're here." Denise studied her daughter's face. "But something's different." "You've got that look." "What look?" "The same look I had when I met your father." Denise raised an eyebrow. "There's a man involved, isn't there?" Amira couldn't help but smile. Her mother had always been able to read her like a book. "Yes, there is, and if everything goes as planned, you'll meet him soon." Back in their modest home on Chicago's South Side, Amira unpacked while filling her mother in on the sanitized version of events, leaving out the bribe and threats, focusing instead on Zayn's decision to follow his heart. An Arab millionaire, falling for my baby girl. Denise shook her head in wonder. Sounds like one of those soap operas I watch. It's not like that, Mom. He's just different, kind, genuine. Rich men are always different until they get what they want, Denise warned. I just don't want to see you hurt. I know, Mom, but I trust him. Later that night, as Amira helped her mother with her medication, her phone rang with an international number. Zayn? She answered hopefully. Not quite. The voice was cold, authoritative. This is Khalid Al-Fahad, Zayn's father. Amira's blood ran cold. Mr. Al-Fahad, how did you get my number? That's not important. What matters is that you understand. Something my son has a duty to his family, a legacy to uphold. With all due respect, sir, I think that's a conversation you should have with Zayn. I've had many conversations with my son over the years, but he seems incapable of rational thought where you are concerned. Khalid's voice hardened. Let me be clear. The Al-Fahad family has business interests worth billions. The merger with the Haddads would double that fortune. I will not allow some American waitress to destroy what I've spent my life building. Amira's grip tightened on the phone. I never asked Zayn to choose between me and his family. Yet, here we are. There was a pause. I understand you accepted money from Syra to leave Dubai. Amira closed her eyes, shame washing over her. Yes. Then you already have a price. Whatever she offered you, I'll triple it. Just stay away from my son. It's not about the money. It's always about the money, Khalid interrupted. Everyone has a price. Name yours. From the living room, Amira could hear her mother coughing, violently. The sound reminded her of why she had taken Syra's money in the first place. My mother is sick, she said quietly. She needs specialized care that we can't afford. Done, Khalid said immediately. The best doctors, the best treatment, all expenses paid. Just end this nonsense with my son. The offer was tempting. More tempting than Amira wanted to admit. Her mother's health was deteriorating, and the American healthcare system had already drained their meager savings. I need to think about it, she finally said. Don't think too long. My offer expires when my son lands in Chicago. With that, Khalid ended the call. Amira sat on her bed, the phone still in her hand, tears streaming down her face. How had everything become so complicated? A month ago, she was just a waitress trying to make ends meet. Now she was caught in a power struggle with one of the richest families in the world. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zayn. Just boarded. I'll be there tomorrow. Can't wait to see you and meet your mother. I love you. The simple message made her heart ache. She wanted to believe that love could conquer all, that they could build a life together despite the obstacles. But was it fair to ask Zayn to give up everything for her? And was it right to deny her mother the care she desperately needed? The next morning, Amira woke to find her mother in worse condition than usual. The long flight from Dubai had left Amira exhausted, and she had slept through her mother's calls during the night. Mom, why didn't you wake me? She asked, helping Denise to the couch. You were tired, baby, and it's nothing I haven't handled before. But Amira could see the truth in her mother's labored breathing and the pain in her eyes. This was getting worse, and they both knew it. I'm taking you to the hospital, Amira declared, reaching for her phone. At the emergency room, they waited for hours before a doctor finally saw them. The diagnosis was pneumonia, dangerous for someone with Denise's weakened immune system. She needs to be admitted, the doctor told Amira, and there are some tests I'd like to run. Has she been experiencing more pain lately? Yes, in her back and hips. We thought it was just part of her condition. The doctor's expression grew serious. I want to check for possible metastasis. Has she been seeing an oncologist regularly? We can't afford one, Amira admitted, the shame of it burning in her chest. Our insurance only covers the basics. As the doctor walked away, promising to do what he could, Amira stepped outside to clear her head. The weight of her mother's illness, Khalid's offer, and Zayn's imminent arrival was almost too much to bear. Her phone rang. Zayn again. Hey, she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. Amira, something's happened. Zayn sounded distressed. My father froze all my accounts, my credit cards, everything. He's serious about cutting me off. Oh, Zain. It doesn't change anything, he quickly added. I still have some cash, and once I get to Chicago, I can figure something out. Start fresh. Start fresh. The words hung in the air. How could she tell him that his father had called? That she was considering his offer for her mother's sake? Zain, I'm at the hospital, she said instead. My mum's sick, they're admitting her. Is she okay? What happened? Pneumonia, but they're worried it might be more. They want to run tests. Amira's voice broke. Tests we can't afford. There was silence on the other end. Then, your mother needs the best care possible, and I want to help, but your father cut you off, Amira finished for him. I'll figure something out, Zain promised. I have friends who can help. Just hold on until I get there, okay? After they hung up, Amira sat in the hospital waiting room, her mind racing. Zain was willing to give up everything for her, to start over with nothing. But what kind of life could they build if her mother's medical bills consumed every penny they had? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My offer still stands. For your mother's sake, I hope you make the right decision. Khalid Al-Fahad, as if to drive the point home. A doctor approached her with a concerned expression. Ms. Johnson, we've run some preliminary tests. I'm afraid it's more serious than we initially thought. Your mother needs specialized treatment, possibly surgery. And the cost? Amira asked, already knowing the answer would be more than she could afford. The doctor quoted a figure that made her heart sink. Even with the money from Sarah, it wouldn't be enough. Amira closed her eyes, the weight of the decision crushing her. On one hand, the man she loved, willing to sacrifice everything for their future together. On the other, her mother's life, hanging in the balance. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. As Zain's plane touched down in Chicago, Amira made the hardest phone call of her life. A call that would change everything between them forever, because sometimes love meant making impossible choices, and sometimes the greatest act of love was letting go. Zain stepped out of O'Hare International Airport, the cold Chicago wind, a stark contrast to Dubai's desert heat. He pulled his jacket tighter and scanned the pickup area, searching for Amira. They had planned to meet here, but his last call had gone straight to voicemail. He checked his phone again. No messages, no missed calls. After waiting 30 minutes, he hailed a taxi. Where to? The driver asked. Zain hesitated. Amira had texted him her address the day before, but he felt strange showing up unannounced. Still, he had no other options. Southside, please, he said, reading the address from his phone. As the taxi drove through the city, Zain took in the sights of Chicago. The gleaming skyscrapers of downtown gradually gave way to more modest neighborhoods, a mix of renewal and neglect that was so different from the carefully curated luxury of Dubai. When they arrived at Amira's address, Zain paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the small, two-story house with peeling paint and a small, well-kept front yard. It was humble, but there was a warmth to it that the Al-Fahad mansion had always lacked. Taking a deep breath, he walked up to the door and knocked. A moment later, an older woman answered, thin, with Amira's same warm brown eyes, though lined with fatigue and something heavier. Mrs. Johnson? Zain asked uncertainly. Yes? She looked him up and down, taking in his expensive clothes and polished appearance. I'm Zain Al-Fahad. I'm looking for Amira. Recognition dawned on her face. You're him, the one she told me about. She hesitated, then stepped back. Come in, we need to talk. The inside of the house was modest but clean, filled with family photos and worn but comfortable furniture. Denise Johnson led him to the living room, her movements slow and careful. Amira's. Not here, she said as they sat down. Do you know when she'll be back? We were supposed to meet at the airport. She's not coming back. Not today, anyway. Denise studied his face. She didn't tell you, did she? Zain's heart raced. Tell me what? She's gone back to Dubai. The words hit Zain like a physical blow. That's impossible. I just left Dubai to come here. Why would she go back? For a job, she said. A better position at a different hotel. Denise didn't meet his eyes. She left early this morning. I don't understand. We had plans. She knew I was coming. Zain ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Can I call her? Does she have her phone? She asked for some time. Said she needed to sort things out. Zain stood up, pacing the small living room. None of this makes sense. Yesterday she was worried about you being in the hospital. How could she just leave? At the mention of the hospital, something flashed across Denise's face, guilt perhaps, or worry. How are you feeling, Mrs. Johnson? Zain asked more gently. Amira mentioned you've been ill. I'm much better now, she said quickly. They gave me new medication. The doctor says I'll be fine. There was something off about her tone, a forced brightness that didn't match the obvious fatigue in her eyes. Mrs. Johnson, please, Zain said, sitting back down across from her. I love your daughter. If something's happened, I need to know. Denise seemed to wrestle with herself for a moment, before sighing deeply. You seem like a good man. And my Amira, she's always been a good judge of character. She reached for a folder on the coffee table and handed it to him. Maybe you should see this. Inside were medical documents, treatment plans, referrals to specialists, and most notably, a receipt for a substantial payment made to Chicago Memorial Hospital. Attached was a simple note. For Denise Johnson's care, a gift from the Al-Fahad family. Zain felt the blood drain from his face. My father did this, Denise nodded. A man called yesterday, said he was your father, offered to cover all my medical expenses if Amira would. Her voice trailed off. If she would stay away from me, Zain finished, anger building inside him. And she agreed? She didn't want to. Denise's eyes filled with tears. But I'm sicker than I let on. Cancer, stage 3. The treatment is expensive and our insurance barely covers any of it. She reached out and touched Zain's hand. She loves you. That's why she let you go. Zain sat in stunned silence, pieces falling into place. His father's triumphant smile that morning, the sudden unfreezing of his accounts just before he boarded his flight. It had all been part of Khalid's plan. Let Zain chase after Amira, only to find she had chosen money over love, except she hadn't. She had chosen her mother's life. I need to go back to Dubai, Zain said, standing abruptly. I need to find her. But your father will not win this time. Zain's jaw was set with determination. Mrs. Johnson, I promise you this. Your medical care will continue regardless of what happens between me and Amira. My father may think he can control people with his money, but he's about to learn that some things can't be bought. Back in Dubai, Amira stood in the lobby of the Grand Oasis Hotel, but this time she wasn't wearing a waitress uniform. Instead, she was dressed in a conservative business suit, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. Miss Johnson, the hotel manager greeted her with forced politeness. Mr. Al-Fahad is waiting for you in his office. She followed him to the executive floor, her heart heavy. When she had called Khalid Al-Fahad from Chicago to accept his offer, she hadn't expected to be summoned back to Dubai so quickly. But Khalid had made it clear, if she wanted her mother's medical bills paid, she would have to work for it. The door to the office opened, and Amira found herself face to face with Zain's father. In person, Khalid Al-Fahad was even more intimidating. Tall and distinguished with the same dark eyes as Zain, though lacking any of the warmth. Miss Johnson, please sit. He gestured to a chair, his tone businesslike. I appreciate your prompt return to Dubai. You didn't leave me much choice, Amira replied, trying to keep her voice steady. We always have choices. You made a wise one. Khalid sat back in his chair. As promised, your mother's medical expenses are being handled. The best specialists have been assigned to her case. Thank you, Amira said stiffly. Don't thank me yet. As I mentioned on the phone, there are conditions to our arrangement. He slid a folder across the desk. You'll be working for Al-Fahad Enterprises as a community liaison. The position comes with a generous salary and benefits, including housing. Amira opened the folder, scanning the contract inside. A community liaison? What exactly would I be doing? Our company is expanding into lower-income areas of Dubai for a new housing development. You'll be the face of that initiative, meeting with community leaders, addressing concerns, that sort of thing. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Your common touch could be an asset to us. The implication was clear. Khalid was keeping her close where he could monitor her. And he was using her background, her race, her economic status, as a tool for his business. And if I refuse, then our agreement regarding your mother's care would have to be reconsidered. Khalid's voice was light, but the threat was unmistakable. Besides, this is a good opportunity for someone like you. A step up from serving drinks, wouldn't you say? Swallowing her pride, Amira took the pen he offered and signed the contract. Excellent, Khalid said, taking back the folder. You'll start tomorrow. My assistant will show you to your new apartment. And what about Zain? Amira couldn't help asking. What have you told him? My son believes you chose money over love. A painful but necessary lesson for him. Khalid stood, indicating the meeting was over. Let's be clear, Miss Johnson. You will not contact him. If he attempts to contact you, you will not respond. As far as you're concerned, Zain al-Fahad no longer exists. As Amira was escorted to her new apartment, a sleek modern space in a building owned by the al-Fahad family, she felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage. She had sacrificed her happiness for her mother's health, but she hadn't expected it to hurt this much. That night, she unpacked the few belongings she had brought from Chicago, including the silver bracelet with the Chicago skyline charm. As she held it in her hands, tears rolled down her cheeks. She had made the right choice for her mother, but her heart felt shattered beyond repair. A knock at the door startled her. Quickly wiping away her tears, she opened it to find a young woman in a uniform holding a large envelope. Delivery for Miss Johnson, she said. Amira thanked her and closed the door, curiously opening the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery. Dear Amira, I was disappointed to learn of your sudden departure from our hotel. Your services were always exemplary, and your presence will be missed by many of our guests. I understand you've accepted a position with Al-Fahad Enterprises. While I wish you the best in your new role, I feel compelled to share some information that might interest you. Khalid Al-Fahad is not a man known for his generosity or forgiveness. Whatever arrangement you've made with him, I urge you to get it in writing and to read the fine print carefully. If you ever find yourself in need of assistance or advice, my door is always open to you. Regards, Ibrahim Al-Rashid, owner, Grand Oasis Hotel. Amira read the letter twice, confused by its cryptic warning. Ibrahim Al-Rashid was the husband of the woman who had helped force her out of her job. Why would he reach out to her now? Before she could ponder it further, her phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? She answered cautiously. Is this Amira? Johnson? A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. Yes, who's calling? My name is Layla. I'm Mr. Al-Rashid's secretary. He asked me to check if you received his letter. Yes, just now. I don't understand why he sent it. There was a pause on the other end. Mr. Al-Rashid and Mr. Al-Fahad have a complicated history. They were once business partners, but there was a falling out many years ago. Let's just say Mr. Al-Rashid is aware of how Khalid operates. Why are you telling me this? Because Zain is back in Dubai. He's looking for you. Amira's heart skipped a beat. He's supposed to be in Chicago. He returned last night, and he's causing quite a stir in the business community. He's challenging his father's authority, demanding answers. Layla lowered her voice. There are rumors he's considering legal action to remove his father from the company. That's impossible. Khalid built that company with money from his wife's family, Zain's mother, and the company bylaws state that in the event of a dispute between family members, a mediator must be appointed. Layla paused again. That mediator is Ibrahim Al-Rashid. Amira sat down, her mind racing. Why are you really calling me Layla? What does Mr. Al-Rashid want? Justice, perhaps, or revenge against an old enemy. Either way, he believes you might be the key. After the call ended, Amira sat in her new apartment, turning the silver bracelet over in her hands. She had made a deal with Khalid Al-Fahad to save her mother's life, but in doing so, she had set off a chain reaction that threatened to tear apart one of the most powerful families in Dubai. And now, somehow, she found herself at the center of a decades-old feud between business titans. The next morning, Amira reported to the Al Fahad Enterprises headquarters, a towering glass building in the heart of Dubai's financial district. She was given a small office on the 30th floor and a stack of files about the community housing project she would be working on. As she was familiarizing herself with the project details, her office door opened without a knock. Saira Haddad stood, there elegant as ever in a designer suit, her expression a mix of triumph and disdain. "So it's true," she said, closing the door behind her. "You've sold yourself to the Al Fahads after all." Amira straightened in her chair. "I'm here to do a job, Saira, that's all." "Please." Saira waved a manicured hand dismissively. "We both know why Khalid brought you here. He's keeping you like a pet, making sure you stay away from his son. I signed a contract. I'm a community liaison for the new housing development." Saira laughed bitterly. How convenient. The perfect way to use your background. She leaned forward, placing her hands on Amira's desk. "Listen to me carefully. Zain is mine. He always has been. Whatever schoolboy fantasy he had about you is over. If you're so confident about that, why are you here?" Amira countered, finding her courage. "Why do you care what I do or why I'm here?" For a moment, Saira's perfect composure cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. "Because he's back in Dubai, tearing his family apart, and it's all because of you." Before Amira could respond, her office phone rang. "Miss Johnson, you're needed in the main conference room," said a voice when she answered. "Mr. Al Fahad would like you to join a meeting." "Which Mr. Al Fahad?" Amira asked, her eyes still on Saira. "Mr. Zain Al Fahad." Saira's face paled as she overheard the name. "I'll be right there," Amira said, hanging up. "You can't go," Saira hissed. "Think about your mother. Think about your arrangement with Khalid." "I have a job to do," Amira replied calmly, standing up. "And apparently that job involves meeting with a company executive." She walked past Saira and headed for the conference room, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea what awaited her there, but for the first time since returning to Dubai, she felt a spark of hope. The conference room was filled with men in expensive suits, all speaking in hushed tones. At the head of the table sat Zain, looking tired but determined. His father was noticeably absent. When Amira entered, the room fell silent. Zain's eyes found hers, and for a moment it was as if no one else existed. "Miss Johnson," he said formally, though his eyes conveyed a different message. "Thank you for joining us. Please take a seat." As she sat down, Zain addressed the room. "For those who haven't been introduced, this is Amira Johnson, our new community liaison for the Jebel Ali housing project. Miss Johnson, these are the members of our executive board and our legal team." One of the older executives leaned forward. "Mr. Al Fahad, with all due respect, why is a junior employee being included in this meeting?" "Because the Jebel Ali project is central to the issues we're discussing today," Zain replied smoothly. "As you all know, I've raised concerns about certain business practices within our company. The Community Housing Initiative is one of those concerns." He clicked a button, and a presentation appeared on the large screen behind him. "According to our public statements, the Jebel Ali project is meant to provide affordable housing for lower-income residents. However, the actual plans tell a different story." The screen showed two sets of blueprints side by side, one featuring modest apartments with green spaces and community facilities, the other showing luxury condominiums with high-end amenities. "The left is what we've promised the public, the right is what we're actually building," Zain explained. "We've been systematically purchasing land in Jebel Ali at below-market rates by promising affordable housing, only to develop luxury properties for maximum profit." Murmurs filled the room as the executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. "This isn't just unethical, it's potentially illegal," Zain continued. "And it's just one example of the questionable decisions made under my father's leadership." An older board member cleared his throat. "Your father has built this company into what it is today. These accusations are serious." "They are. And there's more." Zain nodded to a man in a dark suit who distributed folders to everyone at the table, including Amira. "Our legal team has identified several instances of financial impropriety, including possible embezzlement and tax evasion." As Amira scanned the documents in her folder, she realized what Zain was doing. He wasn't just challenging his father's business decisions, He was staging a complete takeover of the company. In accordance with our company bylaws, I'm calling for a vote of no confidence in the current leadership, Zain announced. And I'm proposing a new direction for Al-Fahad Enterprises, one built on ethical business practices and true community investment. The doors to the conference room burst open, and Khalid Al-Fahad stormed in, his face contorted with rage. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "How dare you call a board meeting without me? The bylaws allow for emergency sessions when serious concerns are raised about leadership," Zain replied calmly. "And given that those concerns directly involve you, your presence wasn't required." Khalid's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the room, his gaze stopping on Amira. "What is she doing here? She has no place in this meeting." "Miss Johnson is here because she's part of our community outreach team," Zain said, "and because she has first-hand knowledge of how you manipulate and control people for your own gain." "You naive boy," Khalid snarled. "You have no idea what you're doing. Without me, this company is nothing." "I think we'll manage," Zain responded coldly. "The vote has already been taken. The board has agreed to appoint Ibrahim al-Rashid as interim CEO while a full investigation is conducted into your business practices." At the mention of al-Rashid's name, Khalid's face went pale. "You've allied yourself with that snake?" "No, father. I've allied myself with the truth." Zain stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Security will escort you from the building. Your access has been revoked, effective immediately." As two security guards approached Khalid, he turned to Amira, fury and hatred in his eyes. "This is your doing. You think you've won. This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Zain interrupted. "And one more thing, your arrangement with Miss Johnson regarding her mother's medical care will be honored in full. A trust has already been established to ensure it, regardless of any other outcomes." After Khalid was escorted out, the board members filed out of the room, leaving Zain and Amira alone for the first time since their painful separation. "You came back to Dubai," Amira said softly. "You met my mother. She told me everything." Zain moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Why didn't you tell me about the deal you made with my father? About your mother's cancer?" "Because you would have tried to fix it," Amira admitted. "And I couldn't let you destroy your relationship with your family because of me. That wasn't your choice to make." Zain reached for her hand. "I love you, Amira. Nothing my father could do would change that. But your company, your inheritance, mean nothing without you." He squeezed her hand gently. "Besides, I'm still the CEO. I just have better values than my father." Amira laughed despite herself, tears of relief welling in her eyes. "So what happens now?" Before Zain could answer, the conference room door opened again and a distinguished older man entered. Ibrahim al-Rashid, the hotel owner who had sent her the letter. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said with a slight smile. "I wanted to congratulate you both, Mr. al-Rashid." Amira stood, confused by his presence. "I don't understand. Why have you been helping us?" "Let's just say Khalid and I have a long, complicated history." His eyes held a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. 30 years ago, he stole more than just a business opportunity from me. He stole the woman I loved, Zain's mother. Zain stared at al-Rashid in shock. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that sometimes life comes full circle in unexpected ways." Al-Rashid placed a hand on Zain's shoulder. "You remind me of myself at your age, before ambition and rivalry hardened my heart. Don't make the same mistakes we did. Don't let power and pride stand in the way of love." As al-Rashid left them alone again, Zain turned to Amira, a new understanding in his eyes. "I almost lost you because of my father's manipulation," he said quietly. "I won't let that happen again." He pulled her into his arms, and as their lips met, Amira felt the weight of the past weeks lift from her shoulders. They had survived Khalid's schemes, Saira's jealousy, and the vast divide between their worlds. But as they embraced in the empty conference room, neither of them noticed the figure watching through the glass door. Saira, her beautiful face twisted with hatred and determination, because while one battle had been won, the war was far from over. And Saira Haddad was not a woman who accepted defeat gracefully. 3 months had passed since Zain's takeover of Al-Fahad Enterprises. Spring had come to Dubai, bringing with it warm breezes and new beginnings. For Amira and Zain, those months had been a whirlwind of change, challenges, and deepening love. Amira stood on the balcony of Zain's penthouse apartment, watching the sunset paint the skyline in shades of gold and pink. Her role at the company had evolved from the token position Khalid had created to a genuine leadership role in community development. Under Zain's direction, the Jebel Ali housing project had been completely redesigned to provide true affordable housing while still being profitable. "Penny for your thoughts?" Zain asked, joining her on the balcony and wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. "Just thinking about how much has changed," she replied, leaning back against his chest. "A year ago, I was serving drinks to people like you. Now I'm helping run a billion-dollar housing project, and doing an amazing job of it," Zain said, kissing her temple. "The community leaders can't stop singing your praises." Amira smiled, but didn't respond. Despite their happiness, shadows still loomed over them. Khalid had disappeared after being ousted from the company, reportedly traveling in Europe, but his influence still lingered. The Al Fahad family's social circle had largely turned their backs on Zain, viewing his relationship with Amira as a betrayal of their traditions and expectations. And then there was Saira. After the board meeting, she had made a show of accepting defeat gracefully, even congratulating Zain on his bold new direction for the company. But Amira didn't trust her sudden change of heart. "What time is your mother's flight landing tomorrow?" Zain asked, changing the subject. "I still can't believe she agreed to move here. The best doctors are here, and this way you can see her every day." Zain turned Amira to face him. "Besides, the guest house is sitting empty, and I think she'll love the garden." Amira's mother had responded well to her initial treatments, but her doctors had recommended ongoing care. When Zain suggested she relocate to Dubai, Amira had been hesitant. Her mother had never left Chicago. But to her surprise, Denise had embraced the idea, eager to be closer to her daughter and to experience a new part of the world. "I should warn you," Amira said with a smile, "once my mother gets settled, she's going to start asking when we're getting married." Zain's eyes sparkled with mischief. "And what should we tell her?" "The truth, I guess, that we're taking our time. Are we?" Zain reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Maybe it's time to reconsider that position." Amira's heart skipped a beat as he opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "Zain, before you say anything," he said, suddenly serious, "I want you to know that this isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's not about my family or society or traditions." He took her hand in his. "It's about us, about how I feel when I'm with you, like I'm finally the person I was meant to be." Tears filled Amira's eyes as Zain continued. "Amira Johnson, you walked into my life and turned everything upside down in the best possible way. You showed me what it means to be brave, to stand up for what's right, to love without conditions." He dropped to one knee, still holding her hand. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, of course I will." As he slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Amira felt a sense of completion she had never known before. In that perfect moment, all their struggles seemed worth it. Little did they know that across town in a luxurious villa on the Palm Jumeirah, their happiness was being discussed by those who wished to destroy it. "He proposed to her today," Saira said, pacing across the marble floor. "My sources in the building confirmed it." Khalid Al-Fahad sat in a leather armchair, swirling a glass of scotch. His time away had aged him, his hair grayer, the lines in his face deeper, but the cold calculation in his eyes remained unchanged. "Let them enjoy their moment," he said dismissively. "It won't last." "You've been saying that for months," Saira snapped. "Meanwhile, Zain has completely taken over your company, changed your policies, and now he's marrying that Waitress. Patience, my dear. Some games require a long strategy." Khalid set down his glass. "The board is temporarily impressed with my son's ethical approach, but business is business. When profits start to fall, as they inevitably will, they'll regret their decision." "And if they don't fall?" Khalid smiled thinly. "Then we'll help them along. That's where you come in." Saira sat across from him. "I'm listening." "As the daughter of Raphael Haddad, You still hold significant influence in certain business circles, circles that could easily be persuaded to pull their investments from Al Fahad projects. My father would never agree to that. He's still hoping to salvage the merger through me somehow. Your father doesn't need to know. Not yet. Khalid leaned forward. But there's something else you could do. Something that would strike at the heart of their happiness. What do you have in mind? The mother, Khalid said simply. Denise Johnson arrives tomorrow. She's the key to everything. Syra's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose in understanding. If something happened to her care, Amira would blame Zain. After all, he's the one who arranged everything. But you established a trust for her care. Zain made sure of it. Trusts can be complicated. Papers get lost, approvals delayed. Khalid's expression darkened. By the time they sort it out, the damage to their relationship will be done. Syra considered his words, a slow smile spreading across her face. I like the way you think, Khalid. I've had 3 months to plan my return, he replied, his voice cold with determination, and I always get what I want in the end. The next morning, Amira and Zain waited at Dubai International Airport for her mother's flight. Amira couldn't stop looking at her engagement ring, still somewhat in disbelief that this was her life now. She's going to be so excited, Amira said, as passengers began to stream out of the arrivals gate. About the ring or about Dubai? Zain asked with a smile. Both. When? Denise Johnson appeared, pushing a cart loaded with luggage. Amira rushed forward to embrace her. Though still thin from her treatments, Denise looked stronger than when Amira had last seen her, her smile bright and her eyes clear. Look at you, Denise exclaimed, holding her daughter at arm's length. All fancy in your business clothes. And is that what I think it is? She grabbed Amira's left hand, examining the ring. When were you going to tell me about this? We were waiting to surprise you in person, Zain said, stepping forward to hug Denise. Welcome to Dubai, Mrs. Johnson. It's Mom to you now, Denise corrected him with a wink, since you're going to be my son-in-law. As they drove from the airport to Zain's estate in his luxury SUV, Denise marveled at the city, the towering Burj Khalifa, the man-made Palm Islands, the blend of ultra-modern architecture and traditional Arabic influences. It's like something from a science fiction movie, she said in awe. And you two live here? Zain does, Amira corrected. I still have my apartment. Not for long, Zain added. Once we're married, you'll finally agree to move in properly, right? Amira smiled. They had had this discussion many times. She had insisted on keeping her own place, partly out of independence and partly because moving in completely felt like the final step in leaving her old life behind. When they arrived at Zain's estate, sprawling modern mansion with stunning gardens and a view of the Arabian Gulf, Denise was speechless. This is where I'll be staying, she asked as they showed her the guest house, a beautiful 2-bedroom cottage nestled in a corner of the property. Do you like it? Zain asked anxiously. We can make any changes you want. Like it? It's bigger than our whole house in Chicago. Denise walked through the rooms, trailing her fingers over the luxurious furnishings. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be comfortable here, Amira said, squeezing her mother's hand. That's all we want. I'll be more than comfortable. Denise's eyes filled with tears. I never thought I'd see my baby girl so happy, so settled. She turned to Zain. Thank you for loving her the way she deserves. It's the easiest thing I've ever done, he replied simply. That evening, after getting Denise settled, Amira and Zain hosted a small dinner party to introduce her to their closest friends, Ibrahim al-Rashid and his wife Fatima, Zain's assistant Malik and his partner, and a few others who had supported their relationship from the beginning. As they sat around the table on the terrace, sharing food and laughter under the stars, Amira felt a contentment she had never known before. Her mother was here, healthy and happy. She was engaged to a man who loved her completely. And for once, the future looked bright and full of possibilities. But across the table, Ibrahim's phone buzzed with a message. As he read it, his expression darkened. Is everything okay? Zain asked, noticing the change. Ibrahim hesitated. It can wait until tomorrow. Now you have to tell us, Amira said, only half joking. What's wrong? Ibrahim sighed. My sources tell me that Khalid has returned to Dubai. He was seen meeting with several board members earlier today. The mood at the table shifted instantly. Let him meet with whoever he wants, Zain said firmly. The board supports our vision for the company. I hope you're right, Ibrahim replied, but Khalid can be very persuasive, especially when he feels he has nothing to lose. After the guests had left and Denise had retired to the guest house, Amira found Zain in his study, reviewing company documents. You're worried, she said, perching on the edge of his desk. Cautious, he corrected. My father wouldn't come back without a plan. Whatever he's planning, we'll face it together. Amira ran her fingers through his hair soothingly. We've overcome worse. Zain pulled her into his lap, holding her close. You know what, you're right. We have the board's support, the community loves our new direction, and most importantly, we have each other. He kissed her softly. Nothing my father does can change that. But the next morning brought the first sign of trouble. Denise was scheduled for a checkup at Dubai's premier oncology center, but when they arrived there was confusion at the reception desk. I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson isn't in our system, the receptionist said, after checking her computer. And I don't see any approval from the Al Fahad Trust for her care. That's impossible, Zain said, stepping forward. I set up the trust myself. Dr. Nasser is expecting her. After 30 minutes of phone calls and increasingly tense conversations, they learned that the trust paperwork had been misplaced and the authorization for Denise's treatment was pending review. This is my father's doing, Zain said, as they left the hospital, promising to return once the situation was resolved. It's too much of a coincidence. But how could he interfere with the trust? Amira asked. You said it was independent of the company. It is, which means someone on the inside is helping him. Zain's jaw clenched, and I'm going to find out who. Over the next week, similar obstacles appeared everywhere they turned. The construction permits for the Jebel Ali housing project were suddenly under review. Key investors began expressing concerns about the company's new direction. And most disturbing of all, anonymous articles appeared in business publications questioning Zain's leadership and suggesting that the company was heading for financial trouble. It's a coordinated attack, Malik confirmed after investigating the articles. They all trace back to media outlets controlled by either the Al Fahad family or the Haddads. Saira, Amira said quietly. She's working with your father. Despite Zain's best efforts, Denise's medical care remained in limbo. Each day brought new excuses from the hospital administration, new paperwork to complete, new signatures required from trustees who were suddenly unreachable. The strain began to show on all of them. Denise tried to hide her worry, insisting she felt fine, but Amira could see the fatigue returning to her mother's eyes. Zain spent long hours at the office, trying to counter his father's influence while still running the company. And Amira found herself torn between supporting Zain and caring for her mother. One evening, after another frustrating day of bureaucratic roadblocks, Amira returned to the guest house to find Saira sitting with her mother, drinking tea as if they were old friends. What are you doing here? Amira demanded, instantly suspicious. Amira, please, Denise said, looking uncomfortable. Miss Haddad just came to talk. About what? Amira turned to Saira. What possible reason could you have for coming to our home? Saira set down her teacup with deliberate calm. I came to make an offer, one that could solve all of your problems. We don't need anything from you. Are you sure about that? Saira's perfectly manicured hand gestured around them. Your mother's treatment is at a standstill. Zain's company is under attack, and it's only going to get worse. Because of you and Khalid, Amira said through gritted teeth. That's business, Saira replied with a shrug, but I'm here to offer a solution, a compromise that would benefit everyone. I'm not interested in any compromise that comes from you. Amira. Denise interjected softly. Maybe we should hear what she has to say. Saira smiled triumphantly. It's simple, really. End your engagement to Zain, leave Dubai, and all of this stops. Your mother's treatment resumes immediately. I'll personally guarantee it. The attacks on the company cease. Everyone gets what they want. Except me, Amira said bitterly. And Zain. Zain will inherit his family's empire intact. In time, he'll understand it was for the best. Saira stood, smoothing her expensive dress. Think about it, Amira. Is your relationship really worth your mother's health? Worth destroying everything Zain has worked for? After Saira left, Denise took Amira's hands in hers. Baby, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. Mom, I know what you're going to say. No, you don't. Denise's voice was firm. I have lived my whole life making safe choices, practical choices. I stayed in a job I didn't love because it had good benefits. I never traveled because it seemed too expensive, too risky. She touched Amira's face gently. And look where all that caution got me, sick and broke anyway. Mom, let me finish. When I look at you and Zain, I see something rare, something worth fighting for. Denise's eyes shone with tears. Don't you dare give that up for me. Don't you dare let those people win. Amira hugged her mother tightly, drawing strength from her words. When she pulled back, a new determination had settled in her eyes. They won't win, she promised, but we need to change our strategy. We've been playing defense, reacting to their attacks. It's time to take the fight to them. That night, Amira told Zain about Saira's visit and her mother's response. Together they began to formulate a plan, one that would end Khalid and Saira's schemes once and for all. We need evidence, Zain said, proof that they're working together to sabotage the company. And we need to understand why, Amira added. Your father lost control of the company, but why is Saira still involved? What does she gain? The answer came from an unexpected source. The next day, as Amira was leaving a community meeting in downtown Dubai, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down to reveal Raphael Haddad, Saira's father. Miss Johnson, he said gravely, I believe we need to talk. Over coffee, in a quiet cafe, Raphael explained that he had discovered his daughter's alliance with Khalid. An alliance that went far beyond business. They've been involved for years, he said, his expression pained, even when she was supposedly engaged to Zain. That's why she was so determined to marry him, Amira realized. To maintain her relationship with Khalid while securing her position in both families. Exactly, and now they're desperate. The merger was going to be Khalid's crowning achievement, consolidating the two largest real estate empires in the Emirates. Without it, his legacy is at risk. Why are you telling me this? Amira asked cautiously. Because I've spent my life building a business I could be proud of. My daughter's actions, the bribery, the manipulation, the affair with a married man, they dishonor everything I stand for. Raphael handed her a flash drive. This contains emails, financial records, everything you need to prove what they've been doing. Armed with Raphael's evidence, Amira and Zain called an emergency board meeting, but before they could present their findings, they had one more person to convince. Mrs. Al-Fahad, Amira said nervously as she was shown into the elegant sitting room of Zain's mother's private residence. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Layla Al-Fahad was a striking woman in her 50s, with the same dark eyes as her son, but a coolness that Zain lacked. She had remained largely silent throughout the family drama, neither supporting her husband nor her son. I was curious, Layla admitted. My son loves you very much, but we've never had the opportunity to speak. I know you must have reservations about me, Amira began. Because you're American, because you're black, because you were a waitress? Layla's direct questions caught Amira off guard. My dear, I have reservations about you because my son upended his entire life for you. That's a heavy burden for any relationship to bear. I never asked him to do that. No, but he did it anyway. Because he saw something in you that was worth fighting for. Layla studied Amira thoughtfully. The question is, what are you willing to fight for? Him, Amira answered without hesitation, and the vision he has for the company, for your family's legacy. She explained what they had discovered about Khalid and Saira and their plan to expose the truth at the board meeting. Layla listened, in silence, her expression unreadable. And what do you want from me? She asked when Amira had finished. Your presence at the meeting. Your support would make all the difference. Layla considered this for a long moment. You know, when Khalid and I married, it was arranged by our families. I never had the luxury of marrying for love. A hint of sadness crossed her face. But I loved my son from the moment he was born, and I have watched him become a man of integrity, of compassion. qualities his father never valued. She stood, her decision made. "I will be at the meeting." The boardroom was tense as Zain called the meeting to order. Khalid sat at the opposite end of the table, looking confident. Saira stood behind him, hand on his shoulder in a show of solidarity. The board members, many of whom had been swayed by Khalid's recent lobbying, watched warily. "I've called this meeting to address the recent attacks on our company and to present evidence of who's behind them," Zain began. "We all know who's behind the company's troubles," Khalid interrupted smoothly. "Your misguided leadership, your naive business practices. The numbers speak for themselves." "Actually, they don't," Amira said, stepping forward with a stack of folders. "These are the true financial reports for the past quarter, not the manipulated versions that have been leaked to the press." As the board members examined the documents, their expressions changed from skepticism to shock. "Our ethical housing initiative is not only meeting projections but exceeding them," Zain explained. "Community goodwill has translated into faster approvals, tax incentives and positive press that's attracting new investors." "This is nonsense," Khalid sputtered. "These figures are manipulated." "Like the trust documents for Mrs. Johnson's medical care?" Amira asked pointedly. "Or the construction permits for Jebel Ali? Or perhaps you'd like to explain these." She connected the flash drive to the projector, displaying emails between Khalid and Saira dating back years, planning their takeover, discussing their affair, coordinating the recent attacks on the company. The set room fell silent as the evidence mounted. Khalid's face darkened with fury, while Saira seemed to shrink with each new revelation. "You've crossed a line, son," Khalid finally said, his voice dangerously low. "Using private communications, dragging our family's name through the mud. No, father, you crossed the line." Zain's voice was steady. "You used a sick woman's medical care as leverage. You were willing to destroy your own company out of pride and revenge. And you," Khalid turned to Amira, "you think you've won? You think you belong in this world? You're nothing but a—" "That's enough, Khalid." All heads turned as Layla Al-Fahad entered the boardroom, her presence commanding immediate respect. "Layla," Khalid said, his confidence faltering for the first time. "This doesn't concern you, doesn't it? My son, my family's company, my husband's infidelity. It seems very much my concern." She moved to stand beside Zain and Amira. "The board should know that I fully support my son's vision for this company, and as the primary shareholder through my family's trust, my support carries significant weight." The revelation sent ripples through the room. Few had realized that Layla, not Khalid, controlled the majority of the family's shares. "Furthermore," she continued, "I am filing for divorce from Khalid Al-Fahad on grounds of infidelity and financial misconduct. My attorneys will be in touch." Khalid's face had gone ash gray. "Layla, be reasonable." "I have been reasonable for 30 years, she replied coldly. "I stood by while you built this company with my family's money. I looked the other way during your affairs. I remained silent when you tried to force our son into a loveless marriage for your own gain." She glanced at Saira with disdain. "But I draw the line at destructive vengeance and cruelty." The board meeting ended with a unanimous vote of confidence in Zain's leadership and a formal censure of Khalid. As security escorted Khalid and Saira from the building, the former patriarch of the Al-Fahad family looked broken, his power and influence stripped away in a single afternoon. In the weeks that followed, the changes came swiftly. Denise's medical care resumed without further obstacles. The Jebel Ali housing project broke ground to great acclaim, and preparations began for Amira and Zain's wedding, a celebration that would blend American and Emirati traditions, just as they had blended their lives. On the evening before their wedding, Amira stood on the same rooftop where she and Zain had first truly connected, watching the Dubai skyline light up as darkness fell. "I thought I might find you here," Zain said, joining her at the railing. "Nervous about tomorrow?" "Not about marrying you," she replied, leaning into him. "Just thinking about how far we've come, how unlikely our story is." "The waitress and the billionaire," Zain chuckled. "It does sound like a fairy tale." "But it wasn't, was it? It was messy and painful and complicated. The best love stories usually are." He turned her to face him. You know, my mother said something to me today that I can't stop thinking about. She said that real love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about choosing each other every day, especially when it's difficult. Amira smiled, touching his face gently. Then I choose you, Zayn al-Fahad. Today and every day, no matter how difficult. And I choose you, Amira Johnson. Against all odds, against anyone who stands in our way. As they sealed their promise with a kiss, the city glittered below them, a testament to the worlds they had bridged, the barriers they had broken, and the love that had proven stronger than wealth, power, or tradition. In Dubai's glittering social circles, their story would be told for years to come. How a humble black waitress from Chicago had awakened the love of an Arab millionaire, and how together they had changed not just their own destinies, but the very definition of what was possible when two people refused to let others define their love. Because in the end, the most forbidden desire of all was the simplest, to love freely, without boundaries, and to be loved the same way in return. And against all odds, they had found it. The